Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dave Robbins with End Time Ministries. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of End of the Age. I'm going to be talking about the Great Reset. Many of you have heard about it. Maybe some of you haven't. But on October 23rd, Time Magazine thought it important enough to dedicate an entire issue of their magazine to this little-known but very radical globalist quest known as the Great Reset. Not the Great Restart, but a total reset. And then the United Nations is also celebrating its 75th anniversary. So the question is, what do these things have in common? Well, it's the ongoing fulfillment of a 2,000-year-old prophecy of really the end-time socialistic world government that the Antichrist will rule over just prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ. World government. They're all working together. The World Economic Forum, the International Monetary Fund, the United Nations, all of these globalists working together to create a world governing body. But they do not like capitalism. So they need to change it. But if they just said, hey, we're trying to implement socialism, there would be a lot of people that would buck against that. So what they've said is we need to move away from certain types of capitalism, like shareholder capitalism or the heads of businesses, and we need to go to stakeholder capitalism. Stakeholder capitalism would be for the good of all of society, right? Leaning in a socialistic direction. Even though they're calling it stakeholder capitalism, it's just a veil for what they're really trying to do. So let's get off into some details. The Median, they ran an article, the globalist elite's socialistic plan is revealed. They call it the Great Reset. So there's this new progressive initiative going around that is the most ambitious, radical plan that we've seen in years. And almost no one is paying attention to it. Now, I know some of you guys are, but most everybody, they're like, the Great Reset, what in the world are you guys talking about? Well, for years, progressive groups have been using climate change, the propaganda from the United Nations, to advocate for more socialist policies, but now they're using COVID-19, this crisis, which, hey, never let a good crisis go to waste, right? Well, they're using it for this ambitious project, and the plan is called the Great Reset, and it comes from the World Economic Forum. Earlier in June, many of you will remember this, there was a meeting held by the World Economic Forum, and it featured some of the world's most powerful leaders. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who is a socialist, Prince Charles, the director of the International Monetary Fund, the CEO of BP, British Petroleum, the president of Microsoft, the China Green Finance Committee. That's just to name a few. Well, at the meeting, they announced their plan to reset the world. And in his opening remarks, the founder of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, he stated this. Listen very closely. Every country from the United States to China must participate. And every industry from oil and gas to tech must be transformed. The pandemic represents a rare, narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. So we're going to use this COVID-19 pandemic as an opportunity to reset the world. So what he's saying. And he said the purpose of the Great Reset isn't merely to enact policies that would lead to additional wealth redistribution. He didn't say it's not wealth redistribution. He said it's not only this, which is one of the major planks of socialism, but rather to completely overhaul the world's existing structures and institutions. So, COVID-19 killing hundreds of thousands of people, they say this is a great opportunity for us to have a global reset. I mean, think about that. They say, in short, we need a global reset of capitalism. Why? Because they're trying to implement a socialistic system globally. The international community, the ideology, political ideology of the international community is socialism. You wonder why socialism is being pushed so hard here in America? This is why. They're leading up to a meeting in January of 2021 where they're hoping to implement this great global reset. Time magazine just devoted an entire issue to the Great Reset. We'll talk about it more when we get back.
As soon as you say end time, they say, whoa, the end of the world. When's it going to be? And you can see this mask of fear. I'm not telling you the end time is coming. I'm telling you, you live in it right now. Daniel chapter number 7, verse number 4. The first beast was like a lion. We have the eagle used continually to depict the United States of America. You see it on governmental documents. We are the generation for which these that you will not miss one segment of understanding end time, because I've had many people tell me it's changed their life forever. Many of the major prophecies of the Bible are given to us 2, 3, some of them as high as 4 or 5 times. There is not any chance it's not going to happen, because it's in your Bible, it's prophesied, and the prophecies always come to pass.
The Median reports that this meeting of the World Economic Forum is scheduled to take place in Davos, Switzerland, January of 2021. And at that time, the group is going to release its full initiative to reshape our world. Now, at this point, much of it's unknown about the full agenda, and because they haven't released it yet. But let me share with you what's known on the topic so far. And it's clear that this is a plan for global socialism, which is it's the goals of the United Nations as well. And any of these global governing entities, World Health Organization, World Trade, they're all socialistic in their ideology, their political ideology. So let's start with the 7 key issues that this great reset is working on. First, shaping the economy, the economic recovery, redesigning social contracts, the social contract skills and jobs, restoring the health of the environment, developing sustainable business models, revitalizing global cooperation, strengthening regional development, and finally, harnessing the 4th industrial revolution. Now, what does all that mean? You say, wow, that's a lot. Yeah, it is. But it's a laundry list of policies that are progressive and socialistic, and they've been calling for these for years. And they're calling for trillions of dollars of investments through multilateral cooperation or global governance. The World Economic Forum actually has a portion of their website devoted to global governance or world government. So according to the World Economics website, global governance is a means to manage issues that cut across national borders, whether it's a pandemic. So they say, hey, if it's started in China, goes to Europe, goes to the United States, we need a global governing entity to manage all of this because it's went across borders. So they're saying whether it's a pandemic, a financial crisis, or a geoeconomic dispute, they don't think they should let the United States govern themselves. They want to be able to govern that, and because it's across borders. So they are claiming that effective governments is essential to secure peaceful, healthy, and prosperous societies, particularly now amid the COVID-19 outbreak. So they want to keep you in fear mode here. And widespread nationalist backlash, i.e., a President Trump administration, against globalization. President Trump realizes, you know, he's got his America First doctrine. He realizes we signed a Declaration of Independence. We didn't want to be under the rule of any foreign government or foreign entity. But yet we've had leaders that have signed us on to yielding up much of our sovereignty to this world governing body. Trade deals and things that are just redistributing vast amounts of wealth to overseas. So in order to deliver on their goals, the Great Reset is calling for more sufficient and stable tax revenue. That means increased taxes for the wealthy. But by the way, if you make $30,000 a year, you'll fall in the top 80% of global income earners. So, the group is also calling for carbon taxes to tackle climate change, even though human-induced global warming, which leads to climate change, is a hoax. And I know I say that all the time, but it's easily proven. They want the reason for global carbon taxes. Always remember this. The reason for global carbon taxes is the redistribution of wealth, because it's not going to solve anything. If you tax a business for putting off too much carbon emissions, and you say, well, we're going to tax you, you can purchase X amount of emissions that people aren't using these different things that they use. I can't remember the term for it, but let's say an underdeveloped country isn't putting off near as much emissions. You can purchase some of their rights to those emissions and will allow you to emit more. It changes nothing about the propaganda of human-induced global warming, which leads to climate change. All it does is transfer wealth, which is one of the major planks of socialism. So, speaking of climate change, they claim that every day new evidence emerges of humanity's negative impact on the environment and of growing inequality. According to their site, global warming is creating deadlier weather patterns. Hundreds of millions of children are being deprived of access to education because of climate change. You understand, they're tying everything into it. And income inequality is on the rise as some 3.4 billion people are forced to live on less than $5.50 a day. It's on their website. And their solution is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which is their blueprint for global governance, the United Nations blueprint for global governance. It's a socialistic blueprint. And the Paris Climate Agreement, which President Trump pulled us out of because he realized it was wealth redistribution from the United States to foreign entities, which, by the way, former Vice President Joe Biden is going to push us right back into that. And they're saying that that would provide an architecture for addressing these challenges. Now, this is just a small sample of how the Great Reset plans to reshape the economy, the economic recovery. But remember, this is not a recovery, it's a total reset. We want to move away from shareholders to stakeholders capitalism. So it's a total reset here. It's a move towards socialism, but it's veiled with the name of capitalism. And it's known how that they will implement these changes. It's unknown. But we do know that they're activating left-wing activists all over the world. The Hill recently reported that the 2021 Davos Summit, which is in January, just coming up here in a little over a couple months, it's going to include thousands of members of Global Shapers, the Global Shapers community, youth activists located in 14 cities across the planet. The Global Shapers program was involved in the widespread climate strikes in 2019. Remember the big one they had in New York where they let all the kids out of school? And more than 1,300 have already been trained by the Climate Reality Project. It's the highly influential, well-funded climate activist organization run by former Vice President Al Gore, who serves on the World Economic Forum's Board of Trustees. Imagine that. So the work towards this great reset is only just beginning, but its effects will leave a lasting impact on free economies and our civil liberties. And they'll use the coronavirus pandemic to get their socialist world. And so, again, the meeting is scheduled to take place in Davos, Switzerland, just a couple months from now, January 2021. And you know, what they say is that they don't care, you know, because socialism is the ownership of all private property for the good of the common, right? Well, under this, they're saying they don't really care if you own a business as long as they can regulate it and govern what happens there. And that's how they're wanting to do this. So you can see how, I mean, that would destroy America. Imagine if you owned a business, you worked hard, and you built a business up to the point where you were making good money, you had hundreds of employees, and then the government wants to come in and regulate that and say, hey, this is right now it's on a share based economic model where the shareholders, the ones at the helm, are making most of the money, but you provide hundreds of jobs for people. You're all making money. It's what makes a capitalistic society run. What they're saying is we want it to go to a stakeholder, and what that is that rather than just the shareholders, but the people that are your workers, the people in the community, everybody is sharing from it, and it's got to be managed by government. That's the difference. And so capitalistic societies don't work in that. You would bankrupt America if we went to that kind of a model. Well, that's what they're wanting. That's one of the main things they want to implement in January 2021. Who do you want, because we're all coming up to January, right? Who do you want at the helm of the United States when the mandates and the regulations from this meeting are implemented? Who do you want? Do you want Joe Biden, who 2 days before President Trump was inaugurated in 2017, Joe Biden's last speech as the Vice President of the United States was at the World Economic Forum, and his whole speech was devoted to protecting the liberal international order, or the New World Order, the world government, protecting our relationship with them, the United States. Do you want that? Or do you want somebody at the helm that is saying, that's not going to be implemented here. We're America first, and we're only going to sign deals that are good for Americans? Who do you want at the helm, knowing about the Great Reset and what it's devoted to? Who do you want at the helm of the United States when those edicts are handed down? So that's the Great Reset. I'll get into some more of that if I have time. I've got a little bit more to share with you on that. But that all ties into the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. They're celebrating it this year. And I could not let this go by. A lot of things, the entrance into the Charter and the implementation of the United Nations Charter happened on October 23rd, 1945. So just within the last few days, they're celebrating the 75th anniversary of that. Well, what are we talking about here? the socialistic New World Order. The New World Order, simply the world government, and it's not just any world government. It's the world government of the Antichrist. This is the world government that's being formed right now and is prophesied about in the Bible. And I'm going to go through this today because many of you know this, but you need to be able to understand what's going on here. How does it tie in this great reset with this New World Order, the world government? A lot of people don't understand that. I taught a Bible study in New York. I had a lady that worked at the United Nations and didn't understand anything about a world government. I think she worked in the bookstore. Once she found out, she didn't want to go back to work. And I said, hey, that's between you and your boss and the Lord. But she worked at the United Nations and didn't understand anything about world government. So I'm going to go through this lesson today real quick because many of you need to hear it again and again. The term New World Order, it's on the back of the U.S. dollar bill. Pull out a dollar bill right now, if you have one. Look on the back of it. Look at the pyramid with the all-seeing eye. You'll find written in the ribbon below the pyramid, it says Novus Ordo Seclorum. It's the Latin term. The word novus means new. World means ordo, or order, and the word seclorum means secular or world. New World Order on the back of your dollar bill. So this plan did not start yesterday. It's been happening. It's been in the works for decades. People have been working meticulously to get this thing created. U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, he placed the term Novus or New World Order on the dollar bill back in 1935. 1935, everybody. Coming up to 100 years now. Roosevelt dreamed of building a one-world government system, and he was the driving force behind the establishment of the United Nations in 1945. You say, but he was a U.S. president. I totally understand that. But many of them have been pro-world government. He's not the only one. So, the New World Order, what is that? After World War II, the United States led the efforts to create this New World Order, and for the last 7+ decades have been one of the principal drivers. Every administration since the founding of the United Nations, here in America, whether Republican or Democrat, has fully supported the New World Order. You say, well, no, not the Bushes. They were Republican. They're from Texas. No, I'm telling you, both of the Bushes supported world government. George H.W. Bush was the one that came out talking about the New World Order. He said, we will have a world government, or the New World Order, and when we are successful, and we will be, he said. So he's the one who came out talking about it. So whether Republican or Democrat, we still were moving in that direction all the way since 1945. Over the last, 75 years now. The world has looked to America for leadership in the implementation of this New World Order agenda. And until recently, until President Trump was elected, we have been the leader of not just the United Nations or NATO, but of all the multilateral institutions designed to govern the planet. However, Bible prophecy foretells a completely different political atmosphere in the end time. You know that the United States is going to pull out of that. It's all in Bible prophecy, and I'm not going to spend time on that. I want to get through the New World Order today because it ties directly in with this great reset that they're trying to implement in January of 2021. That's when they're going to come out with the plan. So according to the prophecies, there's going to be a world government established just prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ, but the United States will not be in full compliance with its agenda. So this prophesied world government, what are we talking about? 650 years before John wrote the book of Revelation, the prophet Daniel was given 4 beasts that represented kingdoms or nations that would exist at the time of the second coming of Jesus Christ. And the 4 beasts described in Daniel 7:4-7, and the modern nations that they symbolize are a lion with eagle's wings, Great Britain and the United States, a bear, Russia, 4-headed leopard, Germany, and a 10-horned beast, which is symbolic of the reborn Holy Roman Empire or the current European Union. Now, this is Prophecy 101. This is the foundational lesson. You have to get Daniel 7 right. If you get that off, Clarence Larkin got it off. The original writer of the Dispensational Truth book, he was off. So in Daniel 7, he got it off. Everything he put on top of that foundation was off. But if you can get Daniel 7 right, then when you get over to Revelation, it's really easy to figure out Revelation 13, Revelation 17, and 18, all about the world government, the alliance with the world religion and the world government. It's easy to see all that stuff. So we're talking about the New World Order, is world government, and the Great Reset that's coming up here in January, the plan that they're going to roll out. We'll see what all happens in January.